the Creality Halot Mage S. Let's give it a review. Biff, pow, zap, clunk, clunk, ouchie. Hey guys. The last time I reviewed a Creality printer, the Halot Mage Pro, I said something pretty harsh. So, would I buy this printer? I'm sorry to say, no, I wouldn't. After those shocking words, I never expected to hear from Creality again, and surprisingly, and without consultation, they sent me their new Mage S to review. And this has impressed me. Not so much the printer, which we'll come to in a second, but the fact that despite my negative critique, Creality has come back for more, and I admire that. They clearly don't mind hearing honest criticism. So here is the new Mage S. Oh, sorry, that's the Mage Pro. This is the Mage S. It has a completely different sticker. Okay, I'm being deliberately cynical here, but actually I shouldn't be. Yes, it really is very much the same printer, with the exact same dimensions, virtually identical weight, and just a tiny drop in print volume, but this can be seen as a good thing. It's nice to have a funky, pretty shaped lid, which Creality's competitors are very fond of doing, but ultimately R&D costs money. By retaining the same printer housing, Creality should have been able to concentrate on printing performance, whilst keeping an eye on affordability. But before going further, be warned. This printer is so similar to the Mage Pro, everything I say will seem like repetition, and I'm going to be drawing a fair few comparisons and focusing on the differences, if I can find any. To begin with, I found the Pro very noisy, thanks to these two fans, and the S only has one, which significantly reduces the noise level, as well as reduces the power consumption from 150 to just 100 watts, which is good to hear. The S has the same flip-top lid, which I've come to enjoy, allowing ample access within. The build plate is the same design, with 4-point adjustment, though it does seem Creality have made improvements to these screws, helping the plate remain firmly fixed in place. Whilst the checkered pattern is missing on the S, I still found it gripped prints pleasantly well. The resin tray seems to be the same, with bolts that remain within the tray. It also has a better paint job, which is nice to see. The ACF liner that for a while seemed to be fitted to every new printer was accused by me, Leechy and a few others of resulting in vertical lines on the prints. I've noticed in recent reviews that this liner has now fallen out of vogue, and the S is no different it seems. Whilst it's still opaque, it's not called an ACF liner, and whilst initially sceptical that it may be the same product under a different name, I will say even if it is, I haven't spotted any vertical lines, as you'll soon see. The plate fixes to the Z-arm in the same novel way, and it does seem to work well, as do the dual linear rails. The power point and switch are still at the back, along with an Ethernet port for internet connectivity. The Mage S also has Wi-Fi built in, though unfortunately I wasn't able to connect it. The Mage Pro suffered from the world's slowest resin pump, a device I didn't really care for, and I'm pleased to say that the S doesn't have it. However, if you're the sort of person that enjoys watching grass grow, then you can purchase this device as an optional extra. The carbon air filter on the Pro was an appalling fit, vibrating loose with every print. Thankfully, this issue appears to have been resolved on the S, and it's remained securely in place throughout all of my testing. Whilst I actually like this clever bayonet connection on the exhaust hose, Creality still provide this ridiculously short hose, which stretches very little distance. Of course, since my Mage Pro review, vegoilguy has released its Mars Mate air purifier, and I guess it may be long enough to connect to that. I'm unaware of Creality producing a similar device, so without it, you're still better off just opening a window. There's 2 USB ports at the front, one for the USB stick and one for an optional extra time-lapse camera, if you fancy one of those. And this is supported by the user interface. My inner child is still delighted by this dancing character every time I turn on a Creality printer. And that's just as well, as Creality's UI is not my favourite. As is typical, the first time you turn on this machine, it will try and force you to connect to their cloud. Unfortunately, as already said, even though I've had no trouble with Wi-Fi connection on other Creality printers, with the S I just couldn't get a signal, so that feature remains untested. I also hate the scrolling text that we see on file names. This actually slows me down, and I find myself checking 2 or 3 times before committing to a print, which is even more annoying given how cumbersome Creality's file upload process already is. There's still no manual way of moving the Z-arm a gradual distance. It's either all the way to the top at a shocking rate of speed, or all the way down very slowly. But these are features that you can get used to, and other than these oddities, the UI is friendly and accessible enough to keep Creality customers coming back for more. The Mage Pro had an 8K screen, and Creality has cleverly skipped the 12K and gone straight for the 14K with the S, and I commend them for this choice. Whilst on paper there's very little difference between the 12 and the 14, personally every 14K printer I've reviewed has wowed me with its printing quality, and spoiler alert, the Mage S is no different. With the Pro, Creality made claims of speed prints of 170mm per hour. Now, even with their fast resin and using their very harsh settings that stratified the layers and vastly reduced the quality of the prints, I was only able to attain 92mm per hour. Now, the S has reduced this ridiculous expectation to just 150mm per hour. It still has the same Dynac setting that must be turned on if you want to try speed printing, and I believe after a brief discussion with Creality that their fast resin and crude printing speed settings would need to be applied as well. Luckily for them, I don't have any fast resin left, so I couldn't try and match their claims, but frankly, I'd be surprised if it came anywhere close. It may be possible under certain circumstances to achieve this, but given the expected loss of detail, personally it just doesn't interest me to pursue it any further. Creality kindly sent me this high precision resin to use along with the S, and I'm delighted with the stuff. This resin seems quite thin and easy flowing, and it cures a pleasant light grey matte colour, showing plenty of detail as you'll see. These are the settings that Creality provided, and I found them bang on, with no need for any tinkering. The Amenalabs Town test print came out very nicely, and for me, so did all of the following prints. I will say I didn't see a massive difference when I applied anti-aliasing, though I believe this is something that can be affected by the choice of slicer. But honestly, we're almost reaching the point where anti-aliasing isn't necessary. These prints may look rough under this magnification, but in the hand they look fine. And if painting or metal casting is your thing, then reduce the layer height for better results. I designed this little chap a couple of years ago now, and whilst he looks great on the table, zoomed in he is a little rough. However, when I print my Spartan shield ring design at 0.03 layer height, the difference in quality is amazing. This gives me 33 layers per millimetre, and whilst it does take a little longer to print, the results are so much better. Now you could go even lower than this, but the time increase is much more dramatic and the quality difference is frankly unnoticeable. So for me, 0.03 is the way to go. So what do I think of the Creality Halot Mage S? Well, the price is nearly $200 less than the Pro, and the printing performance is far superior thanks to the 14K screen. Unfortunately, Creality hasn't included a heater, like some of their competitors are already starting to do, and I feel that that's a mistake. I know a lot of folks in warm climates have commented, "I live in a hot place, I don't need a heater," but heaters are more about consistency than anything else. A while ago, our buddy Angus at Makers Muse in sunny Australia spotted the problems caused by temperatures dropping overnight, and that's where heaters really come into play. So it's a shame Creality hasn't considered this. Fortunately, I was able to squeeze this Cheetu Systems heater inside the enclosure, and it worked well. So if your ambient temperature falls below 25 degrees Celsius, even if it is only overnight, this is an extra purchase that you may need to acquire. The cost saving is largely due to not fitting the pointless resin pump, I think, and also by sticking with the same case design, which was a sensible move. Other than that, the air purifier no longer wobbles, it's quieter, and it uses less power. But its real selling point is the 14K screen, which helps it produce excellent quality prints. And, after all, isn't that what we really want from our printers? So all in all, for me, despite the tiny drop in print height, the Mage S is an altogether superior printer to the Mage Pro, and it's certainly one that I think many users will enjoy. And that's it for this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. So take care, and thanks for watching.